Hey, it's Random Code here, and today I want to continue showing my journey building cleverdash at cleverdash.ai. And this is the current version, and this is a lot like a more complete version, so we're gonna be running it on localhost just to showcase some of the main features. And worth mentioning today, I'm gonna very much focusing on the new journey I've added on how we build these dashboards, very much focused on human AI collaboration. And the hero page is also updated a bit, if you noticed from the last video. But let's actually just get started. So now when wanting to build a new dashboard, I would simply click this magical generate new dashboard button, which then leads us to this multi-step process where right now I'm just going to give it a random name, doesn't matter much. We're then going to guide the process. I'm then going to upload a file and we're going to look at some sales data, which is a larger, a bit more complex file. And we then first get to a cleaning strategy preview, where we can then on the left have the cleaning strategy we are kind of using. And on the right, we can then see a preview of what is happening right now. So right now with this default strategy, we would have 2,823 rows, and we're going to be impacting almost all of them. And we're going to be filling in missing values in about half of the rows. And we can then kind of see the columns for which we are kind of filling data. So we have some address line where we're missing almost all of the data, actually, like almost 90%. Some state where we're missing a lot of data, postal code only missing a small amount of data, and some territories. But then the philosophy is very much in these steps, so we can kind of click this Get AI Suggestion button, and then kind of suggest its best assumed cleaning process in this idea, and then we would need here to update it to showcase how it changes. And in this case, it is very much just going by the idea of removing the 4 columns that had missing data and then going with the remove rows with missing data, because right now we don't have any more left because we just removed all the columns where there were any missing data at all. But let's say that's a bit too harsh for my taste, and I want to keep the postal data, and instead of removing those, we would fill those. We could then just keep the postal data, and let's actually just input the specific value of none in those about 2.869 postal code missing data. But also be a bit more critical. There might be a lot of the columns we actually just want to remove. So let's just remove some of them that's not really needed, auto number. And then we can go to the next step, click next or on the top bar. And we then get into the area of reviewing our column importance area. And we can then hide or show the columns we removed already. Again, then following this philosophy, we can then get AI suggestions where we could manually input or manually define the importance of each column. We can then also have the AI kind of suggest its best way of doing this, or what it thinks would be an interesting prioritization of the columns in this case. But if we then just give it a few seconds, we should see that it then would fill in its suggested idea of this column importance, and we can then kind of optimize, improving it to ensure we still keep our own knowledge of the data, but still are able to do it quite fast because we get the help of an AI. So let's see here, for example, it defines some important columns. We set the quantity ordered as the most important. Might be correct, might not be correct. And we can then also open them up and actually see a bit more sample data, and we could do some modifications if we wanted to, but let's just keep it simple for now. And let's see if there's anything it's kind of missing. And it's also ignoring some of them, odd line number. It's probably correct. Status is actually interesting. I don't even know what that is, so let's ignore it. City, postcode, country, deal size. Yes. So now I think it's great. And again, with this process of having the AI interact direct with the interface, actually being part of the experience and not just separate chat, for example. We can then also add some context, and we can then manually input some kind of like context as a string, or we can also have the AI. I think also an important aspect here, having the AI based on previous inputs kind of suggests some context strings. So for example, it sees that it might be interesting to ask, is there a correlation between price eats on sales over time? Let's say we wanted that. We want a general overview. We wanted a few more. We can then also order these based on what is more or less important. And we would then in the end then simply go to a review area where we can also submit or generate our dashboard. after ensuring that everything is great, or we could maybe go back and change. Maybe we realize based on the context that we might want to change some of the column inputs a bit, or so on. But then for now, let's actually just try generating a dashboard. And should be worth mentioning that I'm actually right now in the middle of changing how the dashboard generation works, so it's a bit weird right now. But just to showcase it works, I just wanted to still go through the process. And right now, I'm not taking in too much of the ideas of all our inputs, but it's getting there. But as of right now, it then kind of categorizes the different areas. And the idea is then that we should be able to use these different focus areas to then generate specific insights for the data. So right now, it's kind of like categorizing first all the dimensions, being more or less the categories, like the deal size, the country, the status, and so on. I then separate each of the values into its own group. And right, I'm just showing all of them. But the idea is then also to then be able to kind of utilize these dimensions to highlight interesting areas of these different values. And maybe, for example, there might be a correlation between the deal size and the sales, and then there might be a card fully generated in the sales area that actually highlights this interest, or some kind of textual explanation or interest or whatever. So the idea is thereby that we kind of separate that we have dimensions, which on their own might be interesting, but we then might also take some of these dimensions as filters or different lenses of how we would actually view the data. And just very quickly, there's also some insights, which right now is kind of just shown in these bubbles. But again, the idea is very much to take these insights and extract them directly into their own cards or graphs or whatever. For example, we see that sales actually have a correlation between deal size. So that should maybe be highlighted here by actually creating a new graph, maybe a scatter plot, maybe some textual explanation, and so on. So in that way that we actually end up having these small stories almost to some extent about each of these different groupings. And we can then also do a bit of editing. This editing needs a bit more love. Right now it's a bit harsh, but right now it's editing within each block. But we could then also change the order or the position of the blocks, and we can change the sizes. For example, we have status. Let's say we want it to be bigger, full size, and so on. And we can change these orders. Let's say country is even more important, so let's move that up first. But very much what I wanted to showcase today is this idea of adding a more complex generation process and having these steps of human AI collaboration, where the collaboration very much phases in that we can take and click like a generate or have AI to kind of like impact our interface, very much based on our current actions and also action in other steps. But that is very much the current version of cleverdash, and I hope you enjoyed this small little showcase of what I'm doing and where I'm going. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I wish you all a wonderful day.